So, if you think back to the early months of 2020, most countries tried to get people to stay home, right? But in Greece, the government rolled out this stay-at-home campaign that went way beyond just urging people to stay inside.
It's wild because, on paper, the idea was to support the struggling media industry during the pandemic, offering financial help and promoting public health messages. But what really grabbed everyone's attention was how the money got distributed and how quickly people suspected something fishy.
Exactly. And the campaign got this nickname Petsus List, after the government spokesperson. But what people started noticing is that most of the money went to media outlets that were friendlier to the government, while critics or even some major outlets were left out.
And that's where things got really tense. The public conversation shifted from, how do we stay safe from COVID, to, is our news even independent anymore? People on Twitter, especially under the hashtag Petsus List, started to view the whole thing as a government ploy to control the narrative.
What's interesting is this didn't just come out of nowhere. Greece already had a reputation for, let's say, cozy relationships between politicians, media owners, and journalists. That kind of clientelism set the scene for distrust.
That's the thing. There's this long-running pattern where media outlets benefit if they support those in power. So when the stay-at-home funds were handed out in a non-transparent way, people immediately linked it to this ongoing problem of political favoritism.
Yeah, you could really see it in the way people responded online. There was this sense that the watchdog role of journalism was being replaced by what looked like cheerleading for the government. And it wasn't just Greece. Other European countries were grappling with similar issues. But Greece really stood out for the severity.
Absolutely. And it was more than just about unfair funding. Some tweets even accused the government of using the pandemic as an excuse to push a nationalist agenda and of using media coverage to distract from policy failures or scandals. It all fed into this deep skepticism about media independence.
That brings us to the online backlash specifically, how people use Twitter as their megaphone. It's almost like the hashtag Petsus List became this rallying point for venting frustration not just at the government, but at journalists themselves.
Oh, totally. What's fascinating is how quickly the online conversation took on this us versus them tone. Citizens were framing themselves as the defenders of democracy and transparency, while painting the government and pro-government media as corrupt or even mafioso.
And let's not forget the role of exaggeration online people were dramatizing, making wild comparisons to dictatorship or using really sharp language. But underneath all that emotion, there was a real sense that regular folks felt betrayed by institutions that should have had their back.
Right. And if you scroll through those tweets, you'll notice people praising the rare journalists who did push back or ask tough questions. But for the most part, the dominant feeling was anger, even hopelessness, about the state of both the media and the political system. Kind of makes you wonder how much of this anti-media sentiment is about the funding and how much is about years of broken trust.
Funny you mentioned broken trust, because this controversy didn't just stay online. It actually fed into global concerns about media freedom and democracy, especially in countries that are supposed to be established democracies, like Greece.
Yeah, and Greece's ranking for press freedom really tanked in those years, dropping 38 places in the Reporters Without Borders index at one point. It didn't help that the government also introduced a strict fake news law, which critics feared would be used to silence journalists.
It's like a vicious cycle. Questionable funding leads to public outrage, which then makes it even harder for media to rebuild trust. Meanwhile, politicians push narratives about the dangers of social media echo chambers, but don't seem eager to promote meaningful transparency.
Honestly, the study really highlights how crucial independent media is for democracy. If the public believes the media is just a mouthpiece for those in power, it weakens everyone's ability to hold leaders accountable. And as we've seen, that's not just a Greek problem, but part of a bigger trend worldwide.
After digging into all this, I keep coming back to one question. How do we fix it? Is there any way to restore media independence when trust is at such a low point?
It's tough, but I think the first step has to be real transparency both in how governments fund media and how journalists report on those relationships. If people can see the process, it gives them a reason to believe again.
And maybe, as messy as social media can get, it's also a tool for holding power to account. Those hashtags, the public debates, they're messy, but sometimes they push the conversation forward in ways traditional media can't.
Exactly. As long as people keep demanding accountability both from their governments and the media, there's hope. The lesson from Greece might be a warning, but it's also a call to action for anyone who cares about democracy and honest journalism.